This is back roads of Illinois server to farmers and ranchers in central Illinois and the Midwest. Today's edition of Back Roads of Illinois. We were bringing you lasted for farming sources and information sponsored by AgriGold. We're glad you're here on today for our program. I'm Cesar Delgado on today. The trade barriers in labor. Farmers are concerned about the payment. Everything is going on with the agricultural industry and the pork industry. We were talking about that with past president of nppc, Lori Stevemer from Easton, Minnesota. And the grains markets are challenging to be pretty difficult to find the right price for corn and beans prices, but the prices are going through the technical aspects on soybean futures. How concerned about demand for soybean and corn? Well, we were talking about it with Christina Vanon from Vanon and Company. This been Back Roads of Illinois. The trade barriers in labor. Farmers are concerned about the payment. Everything is going on with the agricultural industry and the pork industry. We were talking about that with past president of nppc, Lori Stevemer from Easton, Minnesota. Hey, Lori, how are you? And glad to see you on today.
Well, I'm doing well, Caesar, and it's always good to visit with you. Um, Happy to be here.
Everything is going on is whack in the farm economy. What is your thoughts on it about the farm economy?
I would say these are some interesting and challenging times for our farm economy. If you look at the grain sector, obviously they've got high input cost, low market prices, so they are feeling some losses and not profitability. It's converse, or the opposite, I should say, for the pork industry. Our inputs are low, our market prices are good, and so we are seeing some profitability. But you have to recall that back in 23 and 24, we went through some pretty severe losses too. So I think that makes it overall a challenge for agriculture in general. I would say all industries, whether you're crops or pork, exports are an important part of what we do. And so having exports be down slightly this year, or certainly in the case of soybeans where they're down significantly, puts pressure on our economy. So as we know, our farms are the fabric of the rural communities. And so when our farms and our agriculture are having challenging times, that's felt throughout the rest of the rural economy.
Do you have any concerns about these issues as looming like in the future, Lori?
I think we all look to the future and wonder how that's going to impact us in agriculture. It seems like every generation, or maybe every other generation, goes through its challenges. I mean, we had the 80s farm crisis, we had really high interest rates there. So some of our younger farmers are experiencing these challenges maybe for the first time, which doesn't make it any less important. But, relying on good business practices and risk management and resources around us is really key. And then, advocating, which is what we do in NPPC, for good public policy, for good opportunities for trade to help lift the demand for our product is also really a key factor.
Yeah, we will see for next couple months.
Yeah, it's going to be
On
interesting, I think.
last couple weeks ago by the Secretary of Agriculture will send more checks to coming in for next couple weeks. I know that I don't allow my opinion on these issues on my show about trade deficit, inflation rate, unemployment rate, but it's just pretty frustrated with this year and the farm economy with the commodities. The commodities groups is doing good job for advertising of agriculture in Washington, D.C., and especially with you and nppc. Lord, how concerned about the farm economy with the pork industry with labors and inflation?
Well, I want to go back to a comment you made about, producers continuing to advocate for themselves. And we were in Washington, D.C. in September, and we had our legislative fly-in. And I give credit to our producers for showing up and visiting with their members of Congress to talk about what they do, because that's key. And, once again, as we look at this farm economy and the challenges, not just with prices, but as you alluded to, with labor, which has been a concern of ours for a number of years. I mean, we need people to work on our farms. We need people to work in our packing plants, and there's just not enough labor or bodies in the rural area. And so, talking about some type of visa reform, H-2A visas, which are only, seasonal, how can they be year round so we can get them working? And I think also, just with all that's going on with these concerns, that makes our laborers kind of concerned also, and that uncertainty or the disruption would not be good. So labor is an important part of our economy, and once again, the more that we can share that information with our elected officials so that we can get good policy, I think will help us long term.
What is your thoughts on the payments for the farm economy?
Well, I think it's, all farmers, and especially those of us in pork, we just want access to markets, right? Free and fair trade. So give us access to markets, help us with trade agreements or trade deals, get other countries to buy our product. And that's really what's best for us. I don't think any farmer goes into farming just so that they can go get a check in their mailbox. That's not why they farm. They farm because they have a love of the land, a love of the animals, and they want to be profitable. So once again, free trade, fair trade, open markets, that's really what we're looking for.
Do you have any concerns about these prices in the hogs markets with everything or for right now?
Well, we are having good markets right now. As I mentioned, our input prices are down, our market prices are good, production has been good, and so that's good to see. I mean, we went through our challenges a couple years ago. Producers lost money, so to be able to recoup back some of that money and that equity is important. I think everybody is cautiously optimistic if you talk to them. Um, Certainly don't want any type of disruption in the market, whether it's an export disruption or something like that. So we want to continue to see these good markets have good production and good health. I would say short term, probably what's on a lot of people's minds is just the government shutdown and how it's affecting. Now, fortunately, the price reporting, nppc, gave some feedback to USDA, so we are getting price reporting every day. But that's obviously on producers' minds as it affects some of our programs and our ability to get some loans. And I think also, for us in nppc, the farm bill and moving that ahead, and the federal solution to Prop 12, being within that farm bill was important. And now, all those talks are kind of off to the side. So short term, there's a lot of pieces that are moving, and we hope that they all line up so that they're in a good spot for us.
How is the cash hogs basis in Minnesota from last week, Lori, because of the government shutdown?
Well, I would say that because the mandatory price reporting continues to happen, and also that is actually being reported, publicly. So we haven't seen the disruption that we've had in past shutdowns when those prices weren't reported. So from that aspect, everything's good. And I would say basis is just back to, what we've seen in the past, like the number of hogs needed compared to what's there in the marketplace.
What is your final thoughts about the pork industry with the farm economy?
I have said this multiple times and I firmly believe it even in, challenging times like this. I mean, we as pork farmers, as pig farmers, need to continue to show up and keep showing up. I say the world is run by those that show up. And so, continuing to articulate to Congress, to our local state legislators, what's going on in the industry and how the decisions that they are making, the policy that they're making affects us. And so we can need to continue to be advocates. And we look at some other topics on the horizon, like the MAHA movement, and certainly we want people to be healthy. And it's great that pork and protein is having a moment, and we certainly want to lean into that. But there's some concerns with how ultra processed food is defined, and if food preservatives would be part of that. So continuing to talk to people about those issues, and our staff does a wonderful job, I think is really key. And as I've said before, our farms are small businesses. They hire people, they are involved with local organizations and charities, and we're a really strong part. We play a strong role in our farm and our rural economies. And so we need our farms to do well for our rural economies to do well. So I'm optimistic. I'm kind of the ultimate optimistic. I'm also realistic, and I know we have challenges to go through, but we have good people, and we are resilient. And so I'm confident that we'll come back out on the other side okay.
That's right, we were small business.
Yeah, our farms are small business, actually large small businesses if you look at it in some cases with the number of employees that they handle. But I think a lot of legislators don't realize that. They think of the downtown businesses, which are important and are key, but our farms are those businesses too.
Thanks for coming to discuss the farm economy and the pork industry. You have a good day.
Thank you, Caesar. You have a good day also.
Lori Stevemer, she was a past president of nppc and a pork producer in Blue Earth on Back Roads of Illinois.